Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Read? The Tech, Sales, and Marketing Edition. This is going to be a blast.
This isn't just a podcast to have a conversation. This is a podcast to affect change.
It's kind of our outlet for therapy, to just let it rip. All right. That's loads of fun.
I love that. It's freaking awesome.
Getting used to the intro. Alrighty, we are back. Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. I'm your co-host, Dani Woolf.
And I am the willing cohort, Chris Roberts.
All right, Chris, welcome back.
Hopefully on a stable internet this time.
Last week was a shit show to say the least, but it was loads of fun.
Oh, yeah, that it was. Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting. This week, I'm actually at the office, so we will have live intros into the CISO's inbox. But behind me is part of the mock-up for the main jets, like all of its the fun stuff that we're building. Yeah, you can't see much. My head's in the way, and that's about it. So it's like the interior stuff that we're going to start that's being designed. It's kind of cool, kind of fun.
That's awesome. Well, we'll cross fingers, make sure no tech issues will occur this week. Thanks to those who came on last week to save the day, we gracefully navigated those technical, challenging waters. But I mean, that's what it's about. I loved the initiative. I love people coming on, asking questions, and just really leaning in. So this is why we're doing it. And we're going to do a redo this week, right? We're going to dig into calendar bombing once more. I want you to dig up that email because we didn't finish that buildup, and I want to kind of redo that this week. And then we have another little gem that landed in the WTF inbox this week, and your inbox actually, which transferred over to my inbox, the acronym email. So that's going to be fun. This is going to be a fun session. We're going to talk about calendar bombing and acronyms. And so before we hit that off, right, or kick that off, how are you doing in general? How are things going? I know that you're in office this week. What's happening in your world?
It's busy. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, from a work perspective, there's a lot of good stuff going on. I mean, we've actually got some pretty fun stuff. Like inside the boom side of the world, we're sending out the experimental jet heads to Mojave for all of its flight testing starting soon, which is kind of cool. Some good stuff there. It's been a long weekend for a bunch of folks, so that's been nice. End of year, all the end of year stuff. Personal stuff, a little bit more challenging. I'm going to put a post out about that somewhat. Got an informal diagnostics of from the mental health state, so we'll see where that goes. It's not brilliant, but it is what it is, and apparently I've been officially certified as clinically depressed, so I've got to figure all that shit out and see what's going on, dig into the brain. So we'll see. Just some rough stuff with HHS as well.
Yeah.
That's it. It's interesting because I mean, there's so many people like, oh my gosh, you're a CISO, you've made it, everything's fun, everything's fantastic, and top of the game. And it's like, no, it's still as much of a shit show up here as it is anywhere else in the industry. So
Yeah.
Well,
you know where to find me. You know you have my number. You know where I live. Just come over for some chatting and whatever you need. Let me know.
I'll figure it out. I mean, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, shit, I had to look it up. I had to Google what the hell clinical depression is, and I'm reading through the whole thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is ticking the boxes and all that good stuff. So we'll see. This is one of those things though that I'm A, not good asking for help. I'm B, not good taking help either. But this is one of those where apparently I can't dig myself out of my own hole on this one. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go find somebody to go talk with and figure it all out.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, these sessions help out kind of release some of the stress.
It's this, and I mean, with Ryan, Evan, and I, we used to do the shit show, and I think you're going to help us probably get that back up and running again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they do help. It's it's a way of trying to make sense of things. It's a way of, I mean, the inbox. I mean, the inbox is peppered on a daily basis with just with bullshit. I mean, there's some good stuff in there, but sifting through it is a mind-numbing, frustrating task that you continually want to scream. I mean, especially at the moment, the way I'm feeling at the moment, on one hand, I want to pick up the laptop and just see how far I can frickin' frisbee the damn thing. But on the other hand, I mean, I want to retort to so much of these, which isn't healthy either. This is where I think this is a better forum to more in a more moderated and moderate manner try to affect change rather than just flame the living snot out of somebody, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, speaking of flaming the living snot out of people, shall we transition into the teardowns?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Which one do you want to do first? Do we want to do the acronym hell or do you want to finish off that Muppet from the other week?
I'd like to close the loop on the Muppet from the other week, Mr. Muppet and calendar bombing, and then we could go into acronyms and then build those up.
Yeah,
And then we can get into some live Q&A. So audience, if you have some questions for me or Chris, please get those prepped and let me know if you want to come on. We'll bring you on live. Or if you don't want to come on live and you're feeling too shy today, I will read that out for us and we will dig in. So
totally.
let's go.
So where do we get to? I mean, we started talking about that. We started talking about it. So I think we'll do a brief summary because I think some people maybe remember it, and we'll kind of go from there. The basic premise of this message was quite simply, it was an inbound. No previous notice, no nothing else, but it was an inbound. It was an inbound email as well as an inbound calendar invite. So now I got a two-pronged attack. And it was like, hi, where is it? I run a boot. Hi, Chris. It's weird, but with the development recruiting spamming you, I'm getting to know your attention should require something creative and out of the inbox. I'm like, all right. And to some degree, it's actually a fairly disarming opening. There's a level of credit on the disarming opening. Those sometimes are like, okay, I'll read a little bit further. Then you get to the next one, which is, okay, I run a boutique staffing firm. And at which point the alarm bell starts going off because we went from disarming opening straight into sales. I'm like, oh, this shit ain't good. And then it's like I've got a 30-day no bill guarantee, at which point the second set of alarm bells go off because if you're giving me something for free for 30 days or a no bill guarantee for 30 days, now I have other questions and other concerns and other problems. It's one of the things I learned early on, not necessarily in the CISO, but building a couple of companies and running a couple of companies has been you just don't discount. If you believe and you stand behind your product as much as you stand behind, as long as it's a fair price, you're not being an arsehole about it. But if you stand behind your fair product on this one, then you charge what you should be charging. End of conversation. If people don't want to pay it, such is life. Then it's life. It is what it is. And we got to the 30 bill no card, and then we got the one that just was like, okay, now we're dead. Please excuse the red herring invite. Here's my calendar to grab a time that actually works for you. And that to me was like that. I'm done. That's where I responded and I sent it. I forwarded it on to you and it was like, Danny, this one's going on the show. You presume, you assume, not only have you invaded my email, not only have you taken up service space in my email, but now you've attacked my calendar as well. And my calendar is pretty busy. It's pretty busy, and it isn't just busy between work calendar, but think about it as well. I have a work calendar, I have a personal calendar, I have an HHS calendar, and then I have other stuff like events calendars and everything. So I tend to juggle 3 or 4 calendars. The only one place that they all come together is actually on my iPad. Everything else I maintain absolute separation on. So my work stuff never hits home and all the other good stuff. So now you hit my calendar without even knowing what's on it, without even assuming to know whether there's free time on there, without even understanding what the calendars mean to many of us. And then not only do you hit my calendar, you hit it at like 6:30 at night. or 6:33 to be precise, so 6:43. First and foremost, my ADHD brain just hates that because you've gone into the middle of numbers. Now, secondly, you put a 10-minute thing, and then third one, it really is one of those where it's like, hey, that's 6:30 at night. You should never assume that somebody is willing to work those hours. If they and I've made it very clear online a number of times. My workout my work hours used to be like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then 10 p.m. until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. That's screwed up at the moment. This last week has been absolute terrible. I've been waking up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. So I've been working from like 4 a.m. until about 5, 6 p.m. Then food. And I've been in bed. These last week, I've been in bed like 8, 9 o'clock at night, 9, 10. And then waking back up at like anywhere from 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning. So sleep's a bit messed up, should we say. But you assume that I'm willing to basically take a call with you during the middle of dinner time. I mean, 6:30 in the evening for most people is typically either dinner time or it's about to be dinner time, or if you're in Europe, you're getting ready to go out to dinner. And that just so many things wrong with making an assumption there, and the red herring stuff anyway. So yeah, that was the final part of the grenade that got thrown over, and then just the assumptions. I hate, and then here's my company website. Here's my questions, and here's my email. I'm like, you already gave me your email and the freaking calendar invite. You don't need to put in the stupid thing again. Repetitive rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was not a pretty one, shall we assume?
Yeah. And then we had a beautiful one this week that came in.
I
Head
Shit.
scratches there.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm gonna read this. I'm just gonna read this out. I'll make sure I take the company name out. All right, so we're gonna read this whole thing. We'll start off with the title of the thing. The title was, "Hey Chris, are you looking for a VAPT service provider?" And we'll get into everything in a second. VAPT. "Hi Chris, I visited your LinkedIn profile." So okay, you went to my LinkedIn profile, you visited it, and I saw you're the CISO of Boom Supersonic. Congratulations, you've done the first level of intel. "A key responsibility as a CISO within your organization is to provide guidance on your cybersecurity program on a strategic level." Da, 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 da. Okay, not a bad assumption for what a CISO should do. That's fair. "We see a lot of CISOs asking questions such as, what is the most reliable VAPT service provider?" I'm actually going to halt here. I have no fucking clue what the hell VAPT is. I thought VAPT was vaping. I figured that somebody was just trying to sell me a vaping product at this. You're a CISO, you're under duress. We're just going to sell you a vape. We'll fill it full of any kind of happy damn chemicals for you. I, I had to Google VAPT. I still can't remember what the hell it is. We'll figure that one out in a second. Anyway, choosing the best penetration testing service provider company is not an easy task. Actually, it is. The nice thing about, if you'd have actually, rather than just visiting my LinkedIn profile, had have actually read my LinkedIn profile, your sorry ass would have actually seen that, oh, I don't know, maybe I've built 3 or 4 pen testing companies. Maybe I've worked for some of the best, Nickerson and the Laris crew. Maybe I might know a few people in this industry that I go, hey, I need a pen test. And, a bunch of hands go up. So we'll hold on to that one because, yeah, sorry ass didn't do your basic intel. You have to ensure they follow best processes, methodologies, and tools. No, I asked them what they follow. If they follow, the open source methodologies or whatever. Yeah, anyway, that one. "Let me introduce you to company name. We are India's most reliable pen testing service." So, okay, here's the other thing your Muppety person didn't actually figure out on this one. We're Boom Supersonic. We are building some really interesting stuff, like crazy stuff that's behind me that you can't see because my head's in the way and all this kind of good stuff. We're not allowed to let a lot of this stuff out of the country, let alone people who are outside of the country, including this one with a funny with a funny accent, into some of the stuff. So you're making a pretty decent assumption on here. Anyway, so providing VAPT services. I still don't know what the hell VAPT is. You haven't even taken the time to explain to me. I mean, I'm assuming value-added penetration test. I can't actually remember if that's right. Somebody in the audience will have to tell me this. "Our company can help you with performance pen testing of your company's software and provide the vulnerability report with mitigating steps." Okay. if you're interested in learning more, we'll be able to help secure your company's applications. I mean, that's another one. You are making some really interesting promises without understanding the company, understanding the organization, understanding what the heck we're doing and everything else. This is where that whole overpromise, underdeliver comes in. Not pretty at all. And then let me know what your calendar looks like. So anyway, that was our man, the CEO of whatever the hell a vaping company is.
Shall we take a vapting break?
Oh my gosh. Good. Yeah, I tell you, we're taking a vapting break, and I really want to make a. So on the way back from my travels, where was I? Last week before last, wherever the heck. Yeah, there we just Googled it. Exactly. When you've got to Google the acronym, you know something's wrong. So
Mhm.
anyway, yeah, I feel like we need to take a break. I on the way back from the Middle East last week, whenever the heck it was, I stopped in. I was actually in London. I went to see Mum briefly, which was really needed. But I stopped in at Fortnum and Mason's in the middle of London Heathrow, and I picked up some Lapsang Souchong tea. So that's tea in the office
Mm.
today, and biscuits,
Oh.
proper bloody biscuits, not just one tin of biscuits.
Well, tea, biscuits, puppies, and vapting is totally welcome on the call.
Don't
So
know. I
anybody
don't
who
know.
wants to
Don't know what vapting is. I
or
mean, it's yeah. I mean, we were always taught, if you are going to use an acronym, the very first time you use it, especially in a report, is you spell out what it is.
yeah.
I got nothing. I mean, when you have to Google, it's like a bunch of other people on the audience have had to Google it as well.
Mm.
And I'm glad somebody said it, vulnerability assessment and pen testing. I thought it was just value added pen testing. I love somebody
Mhm.
just put it. Where was it? Where I just lost it. There we go. James said it. Vapting just means running their system manually. Oh, the sarcasm dripping off of that response. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, not pretty. Not pretty at all.
All right. So building it up, recap real quick.
I think it's a number of things. So, in fact, actually, on both of these ones, it behooves people to do some basic recon. I mean, we've said it, and I think we're going to say this on probably most of them, which probably isn't a bad thing because eventually, maybe with some folks, it will sink in. But some basic recon,
Mhm.
for goodness sakes. I mean, when you make an assumption, the standard is you make an assumption, you're making an ass out of you and me. Well, unfortunately, in a lot of the stuff, when you're making an assumption based off of something that you've read on the internet, you're making an ass out of you without actually asking the question. So if we go back to the boutique recruiting organization, a simple inbound message with like, hey, I want to do something different, and then maybe something different, and then going, hey, if you're up for it, love to have a conversation. If it's relevant, hey, I saw, because I mean, I've got it in my LinkedIn profile. I've actually put a couple of times where we've been looking for bodies for Boom. I'm like, and even just something simple like, hey, I see that you're doing your own recruiting stuff. How's it going? Any pros and cons? Would maybe love to have a conversation if time's appropriate to see what you're doing tactics wise and if we can help it. Something as simple as that is perfectly acceptable. Um, or even a little bit of humor, inject some humor into it, like, hey, I mean, the Frankenstein thing is always a fun to me. It's like it's alive, it's like, I have made another recruit for your industry, are you interested in pulling the switch? Just some stupid shit like that would be fun. But presuming that you can go on my calendar with just an assumptive, hey, I'm just going to chuck something on, and we can sort it out afterwards. You've assumed, you've pissed me off, you've chucked something on my calendar that, by the way, this calendar propagates onto like 4 other devices. And let's face it, calendaring in the 40 years we've been working in IT has yet to actually work successfully. So now I'm going to have to strip it off of probably 2 of those devices, tell the other 2 devices it's not possible, and then wait for the reminder to turn up that I actually have to tell it to sod off. So you've got all of these bloody things you've now made me do based off of one of your red herring assumptions.
Mhm.
Um, and then we get to vapting. I Our industry is full of acronyms, and that's not going away because they just are. But if your audience has to Google what you are talking about, and by the way, for anybody in the audience is going, well, you should know that, you're a CISO, you should know exactly what vapting is. No, because I actually speak English. I speak English. I speak business. I do actually speak tech. I can speak geek, but I shouldn't have to actually read up on every acronym that somebody keeps coming up with every single darn day.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely is one of those where I just again back to that simple intel. And even Dave says it perfectly, which is if you're not doing basic intel, then hey, I looked at your profile. Great, you looked at it. First and foremost, right in my profile, my even my header. Let me just look at my bloody header on my profile. My header on my profile: CISO, senior director, Boom Supersonic, researcher and hacker. Approach carefully with tea
Mhm.
and biscuits. What approach carefully? Maybe I just need to change that. Maybe that's just too subtle. Maybe I just need to put in there. Don't sell me shit. Try not to sell me shit. Step away from the selling me. But I shouldn't have to. Approach carefully means do your research.
Yeah.
It even says it. If you actually look up the about me, if you actually read in, it's the fourth paragraph. Hey, happy to connect and talk and discuss what we can all do to affect change, to collaborate. I prefer folks didn't use this form to sell me things.
Yeah.
And I do come with warning labels. I put it in there. If y'all actually spend 30 seconds and read the damn profile, I've given you the blueprint on how to talk with me.
Yeah.
In fact, I've probably given you the blueprint on how to talk with everybody. In worst case scenario, you'll see that Danny and I sit down every single bloody week going through this. You'd think that you might watch one of these and go, "Ooh, need to approach
Mhm.
this one cautiously."
Mhm. I think we should actually start sending these to to the senders in your inbox. "Hey, by the way, thanks for the inspo and the
I think
content."
here's a subscribe button. Subscribe.
Yeah,
You need it.
exactly. I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Nothing, unfortunately. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing. I wish if people would actually pay attention on this one. Yeah, somebody just put it, and where is it? Somebody just I can't. I'm looking at the thing, but I'm looking at it wrong. I have no clue what's going on. Yeah, somebody just said it. They're like, "Hey, I give people." There you go. Yeah. So Maria says it. I give people a play-by-play on how to approach me,
Yeah, exactly.
and I think that's actually the first indication. For me, that's if somebody hasn't. If somebody hasn't done that, then it's like, why are we even having a conversation?
Yeah.
And this goes back to that. I mean, you and I have lamented on this a number of times that it's quantity, not quality, in too many cases. And unfortunately, the entire a lot of the sales and marketing industry is very much quantity over quality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's those metrics. We kind of touched on that last week. It's those
Yeah.
metrics that we're being, you know, measured on that aren't correct. Um, it's interesting that you say, like, "Oh, will people do anything about this?" And when I was over at Cyber Marketing Con a couple weeks ago during the talk, I mean, the way we met was largely the inspiration of the talk. Poking the bear was the premise. Um, I gave that, the analogy. You could take the red pill or the blue pill, right? What was it? The red pill that, you go back to your bed and continue as things are. Most are
Hmm.
taking the red pill because it's the most comfortable thing to do these days. It's easier to do that. Just go back the way things are, keep it on autopilot, quantity over quality, or you can go down the rabbit hole and really take a look at reality. And I think more are starting to take that blue pill, not enough. And this is the whole point of this session, right? These sessions is to have more people take that blue pill and go down the rabbit hole and see the real world and where it takes you. Um, I think we need to. I think we need to. Oh yeah, I should do bear poking merch. I should do. Right now we
Yeah.
only have the stickers, but maybe we should do like
Oh
a,
my
a joint
gosh.
audience first HHS merch store or something like that. That
Oh
could be
my
pretty cool.
gosh. That would be a hoot. Yeah, that would be a hoot. Yeah, the poke the bear. I mean, there's yeah. I mean, yeah. We could have some fun with that one. Some good graphical fun with that one. But I
Yeah.
think it's and you've hit it. I don't expect things to change overnight. I absolutely don't. Um, and I do hope, and I've actually seen some interesting posts by this. I get probably in my direct messages from folks on LinkedIn. I'm getting a fairly regular flow of people like, "Hey, we watched the podcast with Danny and you, and hey, I've taken this back, or I've thought about this, or we've affected change, or we're looking at the messaging. So I think it behooves us to keep going on these. No two ways about it. I do love the idea. In fact, I think a few folks in here were like, yeah, send them the videos. And Kristen said it, which is, I don't want to be an ass about it and say, hey, this video was all about you. But at the same time, I think it probably does. It probably not a bad idea on those ones to actually. I could probably set up as an auto rule. If this has ended up in the spam inbox and you have an invitation to subscribe, there's probably something you've done wrong.
I'm going to interject and say you're not. I mean, this is by far. This is not being an asshole. This is the complete opposite. Like, this is gold in, like, on a silver platter for you. I
Yeah.
mean, who's taking 1 hour out of their day every single week to tear it down? And again, we emphasize, most importantly, the alternative here. Like, how do we build it back up? What's the alternative?
Yeah.
How do we do better? Like, that's the whole point of this collaboration, is for us to come to the
Ooh.
table. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, no, this is a good one.
Yeah.
I wanna bring Avishai. I wanna bring Avishai on. Avishai, are you down for us to bring Avishai?
Avi, that's a beautiful one. I've had
Yeah.
two of those in the last 2 weeks, one a week. Yeah. Um, oh, sales managers and leaders. Yeah, actually I like that one from Kate as well. Yeah. It's
Okay.
I think, yeah, so to your point, I don't ever want this to be seen as an arse thing. I don't ever want it to be like somebody looking and go, wow, you're just being mean and nasty to people. That's why I think for the most part we try to keep the names out of it. I mean, yes, there are a few times it'll slip, but for the most part, I don't want to name names. I don't want to be that ass. I've done it a few times. I've unfortunately there have been a couple of times online when I've just left the entire letter in and to heck with it, and that has resulted in a few people getting hit pretty hard by the community that I know. So I try to avoid that because I don't want that. I don't want people fighting my fight, if that makes sense. I want
Mhm.
people with us. I want people taking the messages and carrying them in a positive way,
Yeah.
as opposed to just beating up on one person. Because it is, I mean, and I think this is it. Kate said it perfectly. Kate said it really nicely on here, which is it isn't necessarily just it isn't the soldiers. It's actually the leaders that need to be taken outside and slapped upside the head with a wet haddock, because they're the ones that are saying, you need to do 100 calls, you need to do this, I need to see this, I want to see metrics, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see 10 meetings. Great, you'll get a meeting with me. I'll probably blow the damn thing off. And the one meeting I'll enjoy going to is somebody who basically sends me a picture of a packet of biscuits and a cup of tea and says, hey, you got 10 minutes to just pick your brains on something. Great, done.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. I wanna get into the Q&A because we are almost halfway through the hour, and
Mm.
this is some good stuff here. And I know we have 3
You had some
times of.
Q&As from last time. Did you have some
Yeah.
Q&As from last time?
I
Oh,
had I
hang
have
on. While you're looking for those, I'm going to fill everybody in on. Is it started? It hasn't started. It has started. Brazil, Switzerland, 0-0, by the way, for those of you who
Oh,
are watching.
okay.
27 minutes in.
Oh, okay.
Why haven't Brazil scored? I say this is a travesty. I do love the fact. Sorry, complete squirrel moment for a second. Having watched the World Cup, I haven't actually watched any games completely through. To give Fox some credit, this is the one time in my life I will probably give Fox News some credit. Fox is doing a really nice job of putting like the 3 to 5 minutes worth of excerpts on YouTube. So I'm watching them there, and I'm
Mm,
watching the live reporting from the BBC. So I have like it's the old teletext. For those of you that go back to your hair's grey, it's like the teletext version of that I'm watching, which is actually kind of good stuff. So anyway, squirrels. The football's been fantastic. It's actually been really nice seeing a bunch of the underdogs kicking some ass. I'm like, yay!
nice.
All
Yeah.
right.
We're all about
So we squirreled.
underdogs.
Sorry.
No, squirreling is all right. I mean, seriously, I should start listing all the animals we talk about on all our sessions.
You
Right
had
now
some
it's
previous
a
ones
zoo.
that you wanted to
Yeah.
go through, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Before we get into the previous ones, I actually wanna touch on,
Ooh, is
personalized
Maria
video
still on?
personalized video messages.
Good.
Any
Maria.
thoughts? Any thoughts
Yes,
on that?
yes. People like that need to be taken out, hung, drawn, quartered, sliced and diced, covered probably in some kind of good paste, and then deep fried. Um, yeah, let's have a Neymar is yeah, no, yeah. All right, sorry, squirrel, total squirrel moments. Um, Yeah, the
Well,
personalized video messages suck. Let's just start with the easy one. They really absolutely suck because they're not personalized. I mean, they are, but they're not. I've had a couple now. I had somebody who keeps sending me like the same one, and it's on the piece of paper, and it's Chris. I did this. Oh, you know what? I had one ages ago. Oh,
mhm,
and it really annoyed the hell out of me because it was, hey, my kid drew this for you. And it was, oh, I know what it was. It was like, hey, we were talking about flight, and my kid drew this for you, and I got this picture. It was actually kind of a cool little kid picture of an airplane and everything else. And then I talked to three other people inside the organization who got exactly the same message and exactly the same picture. And then I talked to a few other peers in the industry, and then others. And I'm like, no, when you bring kids into your own personal marketing advertising and try to tug on those heartstrings of mine, you've just done yeah, what the fresh hell, exactly. Oh yeah, it was bad. It was not good at all. I was yeah, I was not happy. I was pretty pissed about the whole thing because you're tugging on heartstrings. Now you're tugging on that emotional. It's the emotional side of the world, which as an attacker, if I'm an adversary and I'm attacker, that's what I'm doing. My job on that one is to tug on your emotions, to basically make you do something that's emotionally inspired as opposed to intelligently inspired. And this is exactly what it did. So this is mimicking exactly what adversaries and attackers and criminals are doing. So at which point in time I'm like, huh. So sales and marketing becomes a criminal industry? Nice. Abby.
my gosh, Avi's
Hey,
here to touch base. Yeah, so I hope you feel better, Avi. I know that you've been under for a little bit already.
yeah, travel does it for you every time, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Avi, why don't you introduce yourself? I know who you are, but why don't you introduce yourself to the rest of the audience here, and maybe have a little bit of thoughts on your question about personalization in videos.
Sure. I'm the CISO with SafeBreach. I've been through a variety of uh, large companies in my past, and to echo what Chris is saying, and what you've been covering, I mean, some of the approaches have been just ridiculous. That my inbox is completely packed with messages. I sent one to the email address that someone was trying to get a hold of me for compliance, and they said, "Oh, I looked at your website and I couldn't find anything about your compliance or security posture." I'm like, then you didn't see the security link and a whole portal that's just about that. So again, that first level of intelligence. Okay, I checked out your website, but then what? You didn't really look into any details. But going back to the personalized video messages, aside from anything else, I mean, clicking on a link to open a video
Mhm.
to a security vendor, by the way, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. So,
Yeah.
It's one of those where and it's frustrating because we spend an eternity. And actually, the personal video one that fits in with some of the other stuff. It's like when you're on the first email, you send in like the company portfolio, a bunch of white papers, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like, now you've just done it because one, you're sending me a video, so not only have you filled up my email and taken up X amount of space on my darn server or my cloud server with your flipping videos. Oh, by the way, now you're making an assumption given last week's shenanigans. Now you're making an assumption I'm on a stable broadband network and I'm not traveling. Abby, you know this. Danny, you know this. When you're traveling,
yep.
more often than not, you're restricted. The last thing I need to be doing is downloading a freaking personalized business on a network that's that big when I'm trying to get critical emails down. So you've got that high side of it. Then exactly over to your point, we spend so long trying to help educate our entire user base click responsibly, or think before you click, or hover before you click, or question before you click. Yeah, as our own industry to our own people, we send out so much darn stuff that people just are expected to click on all the time.
100%.
Yeah,
All right.
it's actually one more thing on a personalized video. I actually got one on LinkedIn. I don't know if you've had the LinkedIn ones.
Yeah,
I hadn't had a LinkedIn
absolutely.
one before, and it was, it was another one of these. It was, hey, I created this for you. I hope you enjoy it. Look forward to having a conversation. So very disarming. The internal message was actually very, very disarming, and then you click. I actually did click on the video because I'm like, I'm intrigued. And I did it on the iPad, so if there was anything malicious, it was iPad based, not computer based. And it started off as like, "Hey, Chris, this is for you." Da da da. I'm with, and I'm like, "Oh no, please don't do it, don't do it." And you can just feel that edge of the cliff. And it's sales, and it was actually a recruiting company, and I'm like, "Oh, you." Then it was double disarming because it was female as well, so it was like a double set of disarmaments. It was really bloody frustrating. So I ended up sending back a message saying, "Hey, I watched the first 30 seconds and it was sales. I'm sorry. That's if you'd actually read my profile, that's not how I work."
Right.
Yeah. All right. Avi, thank you for the question and thanks for coming on. Feel better. I know
Yeah.
you've been here already 3 times, 3 weeks. I think you were here for the first inaugural episode and last week as well, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
enjoy these chats. They're great.
I love it.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
appreciate it. Hope you feel better soon as well from the travel.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Take care, Abby.
All right. We have a great question actually from last week. I think it was from last week. No, it was from 2 sessions ago even, from our first live, I'm pretty sure.
All right, go for it.
And this ties into Tracy's second question. Now, I'm not going to bring Tracy on because last week there were technical issues with her network as well, her internet connection. So I'm going to read this out for her. And we're going to break this question down into 2 because they tie together, but they're 2 separate questions essentially. Free. Everyone loves free. Forget the coffee and asking the person to take time. Offer a free assessment or free service to prove yourself. Let's talk about why not. Go.
Because let's start with the easy one. Nothing is free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe this is the cynic in me. So let's just take a step back. Maybe this is the cynic in me, and maybe this is also a moral and ethical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So a perfect example, pen testing. So if you come up to me and say, "Hey, I will give you a free pen test." So there's a few things. One, first and foremost, if you're actually going to do a penetration test on, say, this organization properly, that's a $30,000 to $50,000 engagement. Okay, let's just be, and I know it because we're doing some bids on stuff. That's a $30,000 to $50,000 engagement to do it properly. That's external, internal, and a few other things. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Secondly, nobody's going to give that away for free. Unless they know that there's more to it, because trying to get that, especially a smaller organization, maybe the IBMs of this world and the other ones that have got more money than average, let's face it, but nobody's giving that away for free. Secondly, free isn't free because I can't just say, yeah, go ahead and do a pen test. I've got to go through legal. I have to go through contracts. I have to make sure that you're using US people and US organizations and. There is time and effort on my part to allow you to do anything free for me, because it isn't. Because let's say you do a free assessment and you just scan my network and something breaks. Who's liable? Now, nothing should happen like that. That's a problem into itself, let's face it. But if you scan my network, you find something, somebody goes in and something breaks, and this airplane behind me is offset by 6 millimeters. Who's paying for that? Who's going to pick up the tab? Who's got the legal aspects? Who's got all the other stuff on that one? Now, if you're not doing that and your free assessment is nothing more than just going out there and grabbing open intel and everything else, I can kind of do that myself. So you're not giving me anything of value. You're not telling me something I don't already know. You're not giving me something that I can't actually find out for myself. I've got some couple of really good security folks inside the team. And so for me, that doesn't help me either. That's not anything for free. Now let's take a step back and go from the moral and ethical standpoint. You come and give me something in my own mindset. I am now beholden to you. I owe you something. I owe you a message or a conversation or a discussion. I owe you something in return. I can't just take. That's not how I'm wired. That's actually not how a lot of people are wired. I know a lot of people are wired that way. Slightly different discussion on that one altogether. But in a lot of cases, unfortunately, free is typically comes with some kind of caveat, shall we say. Hey, we'll do a free assessment. We'll have a conversation with you afterwards. Great. Now I'm tied into a meeting, which is now basically going to result in me spending 2 hours listening to you as to, hey, here's the problems, followed by 3 hours of conversations about how you can fix all my damn problems. That's where I have a problem with that. So unfortunately, in many cases, free isn't free when you really start to look at it.
Okay. Love it. Now let's talk about Cyber Monday. Many vendors, resellers, service providers are offering discounts on services today. Do you think this is the right approach? What does this say to those already in contracts or SLAs or considering your services but are being
Yeah.
pushed to purchase today? Does it discourage people from investing with you when when you show that you can reduce the cost of your services and how it affects your credibility? What are your thoughts?
I actually, before we get into that, I love this conversation. I actually mentioned this when we were talking about giving something away, but this is another good way of putting it. Free also tends to undervalue what you are selling. It shows desperation. Can't really disagree. The desperation, not so much about it. And people are trying to crack markets, and we're hard ass people to crack. So it definitely shows. Yeah, I agree with the first part. It shows undervalue what you were selling. Absolutely. Now, so let's go back to Cyber Monday. Yeah, I'm all for Cyber Monday. If I can buy a MiFi or if I can buy a phone for a little bit cheaper today than I could do on Friday, I'm all for that. From a purely consumerism standpoint,
Mhm.
kind of cool, kind of nice. Services and stuff, bit more of a problem with that one because now it's a case exactly to your point. So, perfect example. Let's just take the MSSP stuff that we've done. If I go out to Newsbuyer's website and see they're offering a 25% discount for MSSP services, I'm going to be straight on the phone to somebody going WTF. And there'll be two conversations. There'll be one, it'll be WTF, but the second conversation is like, wow, you made an arsehole out of me while we were negotiating our original contract. You had more on the table. Therefore, what kind of a partner are you to me when you go ahead and offer less for somebody else? So, or it's an apples for apples, So then we have that conversation about what are you giving me? Let's just say back to the pen test, 25% off a pen test today. Am I going to get the same care and attention?
Yeah.
Am I going to get the same level of service? Am I going to
Mhm.
get the same people? Do you remember years and years and years ago the big four? And we'll just leave it at that. People can Google it. I won't name names because we'll get yelled at. But the big four would send their senior person in and go, hell, we're going to come in and we're going to sell you full audit services. And here's our team of amazing people and professionals, and everybody's wonderful. And unfortunately, what tended to turn up 6 months later when negotiations were finished was one senior person and about 25 juniors that just came out of freaking high school or law school or wherever else. So you didn't get what you paid for. Your assumptions were that you were going to get these 25 amazing people. What you got was one amazing person and maybe 25 amazing interns who are learning their trade, and they're learning it on your dime. So again, I have a problem with what am I actually going to get for that? Yeah, so personal license. Yeah, actually that one's a perfect one. I love that. And I've seen that, and we're negotiating some of that at the moment with some of the endpoint stuff. And Avi says it perfectly, which is great. I think Microsoft actually does it. If you have a professional license for your office, you can put it on a personal computer as well. We're actually going to do that with like Bitdefender and a couple of those others, where we'll buy some corporate stuff, but also it's like, hey, can we also negotiate some for everybody inside the company to use on their home devices, grandmother's
Mhm.
computer, the kid's computer, all that stuff. I like
Mhm.
that. I'm actually happy with that. That's kind of like that little value add thing. You're not taking away from the core service. We get a little bit of extra fun stuff off to the side. Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's kind of cool. I like that
And
one.
f and for those who are listening after we've already recorded and on the podcast itself, Avi just mentioned that he prefers vendors who on Cyber Awareness Month offer free personal licenses for employees. So that's a great recommendation. I love it. All right, so we have a couple more questions. I think this is going to wrap up the session really nicely and elegantly. I don't know who posed this question, but I'm going to read it out. Otherwise, I would have invited them on because I can't see who specifically. But we talked about earlier like stalking or doing the legwork and research on LinkedIn. So can you give just some kind of like tangible steps on how to approach that
Yeah.
effectively?
Yeah, I mean, heck, I'll do it now. So I'll use me as a perfect example. So let's just turn around and say, hey, you want to sell into Boom Supersonic. So first and foremost, you can do a couple of different things. One, you can go to Boom Supersonic's website and you can look at the About Us. You can look and see who the key individuals are inside the organization. Let's see you're selling into either CIO, CISO, or maybe chief somebody or other. You can do that initial analysis. Then let's say you run into my name and go, hey, let's go look at Chris. So first and foremost, you're going to end up at Chris Roberts' personal profile, or Chris Roberts' profile. You're going to see who I am at Boom. You're going to see what I'm doing, researcher and hacker. So first and foremost, you see that I'm a hacker. Note to self, make sure any marketing materials that you send don't blame hackers for the entire woes of the world, because otherwise you'll piss off the very hacker that you are actually trying to sell to. So point number one. Point number two, approach carefully. It's the second sentence in my heading. And I think it's one of those. You've got people that put in there, hey, no purchasing power. Well, great, but let's just have a conversation on a coffee anyway. Because maybe you do have it, but you don't want to tell people. You don't have it now, but you'll have it in 12 months. Just talk to people. Thirdly, if you're trying to get to the CEO or the CIO, don't use me as a stepping stone. Not a smart move to do. Kind of makes us both feel pretty shitty about the whole world. But then you start taking a look and going, okay, let's take a look at featured. I have featured things on my profile. The very first featured post that I have on there, it's the warning sign. The very second one is the hi, let me sell you something. The third one is talking about the value of time. And then the fourth one is talking about Amber's book, which is absolutely fantastic. And the fifth one is about, how to get into it. I have 5 things on my featured profile, 3 of which give you indications as to how the hell to sell to me. I can't make it any clearer than that. Then you look at my activity, which again is publicly visible. So you look at my activity and you go, hey, today's post, about sell. Hey, maybe I should go look at this WTF did I just read thing. Maybe I could look, oh crap, yeah, let's figure that one out. Then you look at how I actually interact with people, how much I'm talking with people, how you look at my style. Pretty abrasive, pretty blunt, pretty down to earth, kind of doesn't hold back. I do give a shit, and I have ethics and morals about how I do with things. So now I've given you 6 exact ways of actually having an effective conversation with me. I'm kind of not hiding anything. Then you start looking at the about section. So what am I doing? Where did I come from? What have I done before that? Elbow deep in tech, yada, yada, yada. And it's in there as well. It actually explains it to you. Then if you feel like looking through the experience, I've done the Boom, I've done this stuff, I've founded, hey, HHS, let's take a look at what Hillbilly is. Oh, wow, it does pen testing. Let's be careful about how we sell in pen testing services. Hey, he's on the Cyber Ed board. Hey, he's a founder of the Tinkerers. Yeah, might want to take a look at who the hell those are. And all the other stuff. So the stuff is out there to help people actually, the roadmap's there.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, just Google me, for crying out loud.
Or just come to these sessions, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's one of those where, and I've done it because I want to give people a fighting chance. There's definitely stuff I'm interested in.
Right.
Now I'm taking a different approach to how I deal with it. I'm also one of those, I'm fortunate from a CISO standpoint that I'm both very, very tactical and capable on the tech level, but I'm also very, very strategic. So I'm able to go into a board of directors meeting and go, hey, let's have a conversation about 23, 24. Let's talk about risk metrics. Let's talk about what's inferred. Let's talk about what's necessary. Let's talk about the business. Let me listen to you about where the business is going. Oh, and then by the way, now let's actually talk tactics. Now let me take a step. Yeah, I know, 0-0 at halftime. What the hell's going on with Brazil, for crying out loud? Well done, Switzerland, by the way. But then I can go and talk tactics and actual geek level stuff with the team, and we can have those conversations as well. So, and I don't do the free lunch thing very often. I'll do it sometimes because sometimes it's useful to have those conversations, but I'll try not to do it. A perfect example. Actually, this is a really, really good one. And I'm going to use Maria again because, well, she's pretty awesome. She hits me up because obviously we got a contract with the company she works for. Obviously we're doing stuff. They do this whole end of the year. Thank you for being part of our company. Thank you for doing business and thank you for being a partner with us. Rather than just sending out random crap, she set me up and said, hey, this is what we typically do. What are you interested in? I'm like, hey, this is fantastic. Put something in place and off we go. That's a partner. That's somebody that understands their audience, that understands who they're dealing with, that knows that random crap is going to end up in the damn rubbish, and then I'm going to be pissed because it's landfill and I don't want to be an environmental terrorist. all the time.
Right.
So it's just that extra 30 seconds that somebody puts in to turn you from a target to a human. That's actually a really good way of looking at it, thinking about it. I don't want to be a target. I want to be treated like a human.
Exactly. That was going to be my takeaway. But speaking of Maria, we have Maria on to actually ask the last question,
Sweet.
which is a nice little wrap up to the session here before we go on last thoughts of the day. Maria,
I
welcome
told
to the
Dani, I
show.
said I didn't comb my hair, but okay, I'll join.
Which is why I wear a hat every single time.
I need to start
Shave the
doing
head.
that when I sit
Easier.
on these.
Shave the head. It's easier. Way less hassle.
Well, thanks for having me. I love these podcasts. Like, I just eat them right up. So I think this stuff is awesome. And I also liked the other session you guys did with the panel. Those were really, really helpful. But one thing I think a lot of us on the sales side of the house are struggling with, I think, is, well, I understand everything you're saying and I agree with everything that you're saying. I'm still just like an individual contributor. So like, what do you guys recommend that some of us that are really trying to crack the code on this, not only externally and like talking to folks like you, Chris, but also internally within our organizations to say, hey, that way maybe doesn't work so well anymore. Here's what we need to be doing. So would love to see what you guys would recommend in terms of the first step of being to help create that change within the market, if that makes sense.
Oh, somebody actually, I think maybe it was you said it, somebody else said it as well. It seems to be the case, which is somehow or other, this message needs to get to chief marketing officer, chief revenue officers, chief whoever, basically whoever's actually guiding the way that sales and marketing operates. So yeah, Dani, I'm going to let you hit this one first. I got some ideas, but I'll let you hit this one first.
I mean, the whole point of these sessions, again, I keep talking about the whole point. There are a lot of points to these sessions, but I create those snippets of the brutally honest insights from audience first, and from this, we'll start creating snippets from these sessions. Send that to the team, send that to the founders, send that to product management, send that to the CMOs. I mean, it's pure like audience validation. It's not a marketer or a salesperson saying this is what should be done. It's the actual buyer saying what should be done, and that's the truth. There's no denying that. So I would say first and foremost, do that. But second of all, if you have your own little repository of research, and at one point, I will do a live session on how to do that by yourself, in a very lean and agile way, like very simple way as well, cost effective.
Oh,
If you have that repository of research, and you can come and you can say, hey, like, I parsed this research, this is what our customer wants, let's go. Like, that's more tactical. But I'd say also at a higher level, and this is a little bit harder to do, and I talked about this again 2 weeks ago at the Cyber Marketing Con, the first thing that needs to happen is an inner shift. There has to be a mindset shift, not just within you and within your internal team, but within the company as well. Companies have to be customer first today in order to win. And not just to win from a money standpoint, but from a credibility standpoint and a trust standpoint in the eyes of the customer. So if that's not happening, I mean, again, I don't want you to quit your job and find somewhere else, but think hard about who you're working for, because that's going to impact your career. Second, start spewing the message. Even if it's not coming from the top, start being the champion of that message that we need to put our customer first, and this is how. So that inner shift with the outer shift, which is the customer research, is going to be super powerful tool for you, not just within your company right now, but long-term in your career.
I think that's super, super solid advice. That's helpful.
I got a question that's actually partly to this, and it's something I'm intrigued. So, I mean, you've been dealing with me now for, I don't know, X number of months. You're seeing me on here. You're seeing stuff on this one. How many other leadership type folks that you're talking with or you're selling into are in the same mindset, thought, or how many of them are just willing to take the free lunch and run?
Okay, so it depends on the organization. Typically, if I'm talking to a CISO, take the money and run type of person, that's not what they want. They want very much what you're what you're
Okay.
describing. They don't want the old way of communicating with people. And we talked about it when I saw you in Denver with a large
Yeah.
number of folks. I was saying, hey, how do you guys like us to communicate to you at these trade shows? Or do you want me to take you out to dinner? Or would you rather meet me for coffee? Or how do I talk to you and not, one, make you mad,
Yeah.
and two, offend you? It's different when you start talking to organizations that don't have, because this is still very much a thing, a security person, right? There's not a
Right.
CISO. It's still that, like, it falls under CIO or it falls under
Yeah.
director of IT or something like that. Those folks, I think, are a little bit different. And I tend to see more people that would be willing to sit on a call and just learn to hear what, like they're more willing to go out to lunch or go to dinners, be wined and dined, but then nothing really occurs, and there's not really a symbiotic relationship either way, right? Because I can tell they don't understand what I'm trying to do, and I don't understand what they're trying to do, and it's not a partnership thing. Where security professionals, I think, that are really trying to, they're in the name of protection, right? They're not just trying to do something for 8 to 10 months and then move to the next place. Those are the folks that they have no interest in a transactional relationship. I don't like transactional relationships. I like to make friendships or have professional relationships that withstand the test of time. So I don't really have an interest in that either. But folks that are really they have a mission, they have a charter, and that mission and charter is protection or risk mitigation or something like that. Those are people that are looking for true partnership. And I think that's sometimes why I'm successful, is I think our organization does a good job to try and show how we would do that. And be transparent about, like, hey, and if this happens, here's how we'll handle that type of thing. So that's what I see. But what do I do?
No, I'm intrigued because I hear it through a lot of the folks I deal with, but unfortunately, I'm fortunate. There's a few folks that are following me on LinkedIn, but in some ways, it's a bit of an echo chamber, because those folks are following for a reason, because they understand the message, they get it. I am who I am, and all that kind of good silliness. But that's only a fraction of what's out there in the industry, and you're always just trying to gauge them, like, okay, am I completely the odd one out that's calling bullshit on this, or is there more and more and more and more of us who are starting to call BS? And which case, that voice of ours needs more power, basically needs to be pushed up to leadership more effectively, because it is going to fall flat on its face more and more and more.
I think a lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
No, then I think to your point, it's very much a case of, how do we get that message? I mean, my thing on this one would be basically just send them this link. As daft as it sounds, I mean, it's like, hey, by the way, one of our customers is talking about this stuff. Y'all might want to pay some attention.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you mentioned customer. I mean, you're a customer of probably several of the sales professionals who are on this call. So potentially. So if that's the case, people, just share the love, please.
I share it. I will share it, Dani. I love this. I share it all the time. I'm just curious too, though. I know I'm outspoken within my organization. I'm loud. People know who I am, and I'm not shy. When I see something, right? But when you have maybe and I'm not at a big organization. My company is not very large, so it's easy for all of us to have an important role and feel the impact we're making, and for our voices to be heard. But you talk to some of these companies that have 2,000 to 3,000 employees with 400 salespeople. How does that get filtered through, right? So it's more of a general.
Here's the other part of it. I think adding into this, it's always where the money is. So if there's a way, and I was actually talking about this, a couple of us were talking about this inside the Tinkerers group. And I'm going to start sharing. I realized I haven't shared these links inside Tinkerers, but we need to get these inside the Tinkerers groups, because that's 300 or so of us inside there. But the other place to send this out to is the VC, the angel and VC community, venture capital community. Because again, if they're handing money to, let's say, me, and saying, hey, go forth and get market share, P.S. get market share carefully, because this large 6'3" hairy purple bearded thing's going to be breathing down your neck. P.S. watch this and learn from it. That's a hell of a message when somebody's handing you money. So I'm wondering if there's a way of actually effecting change by basically hitting the money.
Yep. P.S. Stay tuned, VCs, because Audience First might be coming out with something really cool, courtesy of Dimitri, and the rest of the CISOs who are
awesome.
part of the mission. So shameless plug. But yes,
Love
that's
it.
true. Agree. Cool.
I do have a hit at the top of the hour, as probably
All
many
right.
of us do.
Likewise. Maria, thank you so much. Come back
thank
next
you.
week. All right. Last thing before we head off. One thing you want to impart in the audience today, Chris.
I'm gonna kidnap Kent. Kent actually said it perfectly, and I can't say it any better, which is research your client like you're researching a new job. I think that's a really, really nice way to put it. It's that cursory, superficial research doesn't pass muster. If you're looking at a job, if you're doing it properly, you're going to be looking at everything. You're going to look at Glassdoor, behind the scenes, front on, all this other stuff. So shout out to Kent on that one. Just a perfect way of putting it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will sign off today by quoting the Mr. Roberts. Treat me like a human before you take my money.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We loved having you on. Come back same time next week. We will see you then. We are
Thanks,
out.
everybody. Take care.